Did you know? Bethesda was approached to make a Game of Thrones RPG, but turned down the offer to focus on creating Skyrim. The team was asked to make the official games based on George R.R. Martin's A Song of Fire and Ice fantasy novels. They were excited upon getting the offer, but ultimately decided to focus on their own fantasy worlds instead. When designing the world of Skyrim, Bethesda opted for a different approach to what they took with Oblivion. In particular, Skyrim's art director, Matt Carafano, considered the more surreal design of Skyrim's world a departure from Oblivion's generic representation of classic European fantasy. Skyrim's director, Todd Howard, expressed how the team desired to re-encapsulate the wonder of discovery found in Morrowind's game world. If they returned to the traditional fantasy themes found in the Elder Scrolls Arena and Daggerfall like they did with Oblivion, it would mean sacrificing the chance to make a world with a unique culture. Skyrim has other connections with Morrowind. The downloadable expansion for Skyrim, Dragonborn, contains many of the music tracks found in the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind. This seems fitting as Dragonborn is in Solstheim, which is in close proximity to Morrowind. After considering who should compose the music of Skyrim, Bethesda opted to bring back Jeremy Soule to compose the game's music, as he'd also worked on Morrowind and Oblivion. He composed the game's main theme, Dragonborn. Dragonborn was recorded with a choir of over 30 people singing in the game's dragon language. Todd Howard wanted the theme for Skyrim to be similar to the Elder Scrolls theme, but sung by a massive choir of barbarians. This became a reality when the idea was passed by Soule, who recorded the 30-man choir and layered the 3 separate recordings to create the effect of having 90 individual voices. The Elder Scrolls series has a history of making use of limited resources. In fact, just one team member was charged with designing every dungeon in Oblivion, and a small team of 8 people were tasked with designing Skyrim's 150 dungeons. The amount of follower NPCs also increased in Skyrim over Oblivion and Morrowind. One of these NPCs is Eric the Slayer. Eric the Slayer is named after Eric West, whose online alias was Imok the Slayer. Bethesda was so impressed with his knowledge of Oblivion that they gave him an in-depth tour of Bethesda Studios and decided to create a character based on Eric in Skyrim. Eric died of cancer in May of 2011 and never got to see the release of Skyrim. The tour of Bethesda's workplace was set up by the Make-A-Wish Foundation, which ultimately immortalized Eric in the land of Tamriel. Skyrim is known for its large amount of pop culture and other video game references, but its more interesting Easter eggs are the ones involving other Elder Scrolls games. One example of this is Sheogorath's dialogue in Skyrim. His dialogue may suggest that he's the hero of Kvatch, or, in other words, the main protagonist in Oblivion that became Sheogorath during the events of the Shivering Isles expansion. This idea is suggested by Sheogorath himself, first with his mention of having been at the Oblivion Crisis for that whole sordid affair. He also mentions butterflies, blood, a fox, a severed head, and cheese. The subtitles also show that there's a capital F in Fox, as if it's in reference to a name. These mentions are likely nods to the butterfly intro sequence in Shivering Isles, the Blood of the Daedra Divine's main quest, the leader of the Cyrodiil Thieves Guild, the Grey Fox, and the severed head of Matthew Bellamont's mother. The mention of cheese may be in reference to Sheogorath's Daedric Shrine quest in Border Watch. In Skyrim's Dragonborn DLC, you can come across a wizard that casts a spell attempting to fly like a dragon, but winds up ultimately falling to his death. This is a reference to a Bosmer enchanter in Morrowind called Teriel. Teriel falls from the sky at the Bitter Coast near Cedonine after an experiment goes wrong. Some Skyrim references delve even further back in the Elder Scrolls timeline. At the Winking Skeever Inn in Solitude, the bard sometimes plays the melody heard in stores in the Elder Scrolls II Daggerfall. Skyrim also has some fairly interesting cut content. One piece of unseen content in the game is an arena called the Windhelm Pit. The area can be viewed by entering the console commands COC Windhelm Pit Entrance and COC Windhelm Pit Exterior. Entering the Windhelm Pit spawns some Argonians, Nords, Dark Elves, and Imperial non-playable characters. They're all labeled Pit fans and are supposed to be spectators for the fights. It's believed that this Windhelm Pit was going to be similar to the arena in Oblivion, and that you would face off against animals and bandits. Dialogue attached to the pit suggests that you have been jailed there and forced to fight a bandit being targeted by the Dark Brotherhood, Elaine Defont. This was changed before the game's release, instead having you face off against Dufant in a Dwemer ruin. There's also pit guards who are fully voiced, but they can't be viewed during normal gameplay. The game has other hidden spoken dialogue. If you use the set trace command to change a character into a child, it makes it possible to kill them. What's interesting is that children's deaths have voice audio attached. Additionally, if you use mods that allow you to kill the child character Braith, Lars Battleborn will approach you in Whiterun and thank you for killing her. His lines are fully voiced, suggesting you were originally going to be able to kill children in the game. The fact that these lines were also voiced suggests that this was likely cut later into the game's development. Something that seems to have been abandoned much earlier in development was using Charas as mounts for Falmer riders. This idea can be seen in pre-production art by Bethesda concept artist Adam Adamovich. Adamovich sadly passed away due to complications of lung cancer in February 2012. He never got to see the final version of the world he helped craft. Some of the voices of Skyrim have an interesting background. Charles Martinet, the voice behind several characters in the Mario series, also voices the dragon Parthenax.
And so perhaps your destiny will be fulfilled.
Skyrim also has some small details that are easily overlooked. For example, after a dragon has been defeated, the effect of its burning remains can be seen in the game's world map. Another detail is that the appearance of the Draugr is randomized and not gender specific. This means the Draugr can spawn with a female body and a full beard. Well, that's it for today, but don't forget to subscribe to Did You Know Gaming and follow Did You Know Gaming on Facebook and Twitter. Make sure you also check out didyouknowgaming.com, and if you like this video, please check out our other videos. What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Boogie2988 coming at you live once again through the power of the internet. Or maybe you know me a little bit better as my character Francis, the fat, angry gamer. I just wanted to say thank you very much for letting me teach you a little bit of one of my all-time favorite games, Skyrim. And if you enjoyed this video, please come check me out at youtube.com/Boogie2988. Me and Francis love games almost as much as you do.